Good evening, everybody. It is your tired midnight blogger, What Blogs, in this case at 6:40 p.m. Desperately trying to keep from clicking on end to stream instead of comments. I hope everyone had a good week. Mine was challenging, but I survived it. I don't know that I survived it with my dignity intact, but I survived it. I am going to say hello to the chat because I didn't schedule this one. We simply have JPRPH1 in the chat. Thank you very much for being here. You're very supportive. I love your music, and I hope you keep making it. Today's topic. The debate showdown, analyzing Biden versus Trump, top insides from YouTube's tired blogger, who almost never blogs at midnight. All right, while I'm enjoying the music, I will shut it off, and I will get back to this so I can see the chat in case anybody does show up for this random thing. In a way, I'm going to be apologizing because I know better than to do this. This is like when you should not take the next, you shouldn't take the drink, you shouldn't go to that place. But my options for the evening are I can walk my dog in 101 degree heat. I think I'll wait to do that. I could nap, and while I'm tired, though, I'm not tired enough. And so instead, I'm going to try to do what much better qualified pundits have already done and unpack the debate. Now, I did not watch the entire thing because I'm part of this YouTube community. I was also trying to basically stumble around between Netter's Network's Thursday Things and Moira Kitty and Raquel and Mikey, Susie were doing a late night stream. So JPRPH1 says, playing Bruch. I don't know what that is. Forgive my ignorance. 10 to 1 p.m., then happy hour, 6 to 9 p.m. tomorrow. That's fantastic. See, there is someone who is working their craft, that's doing some artwork that makes the world a better place. That's fantastic. So, let's see. Are we past the 8-minute mark? Not yet. So I'm going to share an article. I'm going to wait. Oh, brunch. Of course. I should have known better than that. I thought maybe it was a musician that I wasn't familiar with because there are, sadly, many. But until we get past the 8-minute mark, I'm going to start with an article. I know that's kind of boring. I should start with the juicy, good stuff, but I just don't want YouTube taking me down. I wasn't smart enough to put into the comments that all of this is just for educational purposes, that the views of the blogger may not be those of sane people, etc., etc., etc. But I'm trying to say that less, if only a little bit less. I try to make every stream like 1% better than the last one, if it's all possible. And instead, I click on something that I didn't think I had. Okay, let's shut that down. That was embarrassing. So the Trump-Biden debate live updates. Biden calls Trump a convicted felon. I'm going to start out as the centrist that I am with balanced news from the center, if you believe, and so far I've had no reason to disbelieve, allsides.com. All right, so forgive me if I get behind in the chat, although I know there's only one person, but still. And yeah, you can probably hear Cassie in the background tap dancing. She is my overpaid assistant for TREAT. She has come up with the stuff that I want to look at. So, amid questioning about democracy and the Trump mob attack on the U.S. Capitol, Biden took a shot at Trump's historic conviction in the hush money case. The only convicted felon is the guy standing on the stage with me now, Biden said. Trump then quickly brought up Hunter Biden's recent conviction on federal gun charges. In the first half hour of the debate, a raspy Joe Biden had delivered rambling answers that sometimes trail off as he defended his policies and record. Republican presidential candidate, former President Donald Trump. Well, what the heck? I guess it's not going to share the rest of the article. Hosted by CNN, it was the earliest ever debate in a presidential race, taking place before the Republican and Democratic conventions in July and August, when both Trump and Biden will officially accept their party's nomination. Key headlines: Biden, Trump asked about voter concerns about their age. Biden has a cold, the campaign says. Biden calls Trump a convicted felon. Trump brings up Hunter Biden. Trump deflects when asked about the January 6th violating his oath of office. Biden stumbles, pauses for several seconds, and the ground rules for this presidential debate, which I won't go into all of that, but definitely this was a different debate than we've had, frankly, since the Nixon and Kennedy debates, which more or less established what it's all about. And we have Patrick, who is new to the channel. I hope I don't disappoint you too badly. He is saying MSM has been lying about Biden, and possibly so. I will keep looking at this. So, as some of you know, part of the purpose of this channel isn't to necessarily teach anything, but simply me trying to figure out what the heck's going on in the world and sharing it with a group of people who are also trying to figure things out. So I will go ahead and play some of the debate. I think I'm past the 8-minute mark. So let's see. Share the screen. Okay. And because I haven't been smart enough to write in that this is for educational purposes, I'll probably be stopping this about every minute or so to comment. This is the Wall Street Journal news. They took 6 minutes to bring up what they felt were the salient points.
What we can do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden.
Just going back to Ukraine for one.
Okay, so that was pretty painful to watch. Now, I don't want to get too judgmental here. I realize that I am, after all, the tired blogger, and I live up to that with every stream. But it just doesn't it doesn't look very presidential. I know that's kind of a shallow assessment of it, but I know that the average person sitting there watching this, they want to see, strength in whoever the next president is. They want to see that courage and conviction. And that's more like your tired blogger just kind of stumbling around trying to get through a stream with his chronic fatigue. I don't say that to be too harsh. Maybe it is, but that's the way I see that little bit anyway. Let's see what we've got next.
1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine, and then.
Okay, so here he does sound stronger. And it's one of the other purposes of this channel is to try to figure out this division that's between us, because, whatever that poll may say, going into the debate, I can just about guarantee that 50% roughly of the country loved most of the things that Trump said and hated most of the things Biden said. And the other 50% loved all the things that Biden said and hated everything that Trump said. And so, again, I'm here talking out loud, trying to figure out the chaos and the confusion. And whatever stance you take on NATO, I'm not going to debate right now whether we shouldn't be in it, whether there's shady stuff going on or not. That's not the purpose of this stream, or frankly, the channel. But you have Trump making some very bold statements, whether they're true or not. I don't know. But they're very bold. They're very calculated to stir his base. And Biden, I know what he's trying to do. And he's trying to mirror the horror of that 50% that he has. But sadly, honestly, I think he would have done better to have had that kind of grim stoicism that Trump is showing there. That horror, whether it's justified or not, I know 50% of the nation thinks it is, and 50% of the nation thinks it's foolishness. But it's not presidential. It's not inspiring confidence in me, and possibly not in many people. Let's see what the response is.
Move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about.
After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things.
Yeah.
All right. So the main takeaway on that, for me anyway, is this is a failing nation. Now, for whatever reason, for good or ill, that CNN poll that I used as the thumbnail says that 67% voted that Trump won the debate, and the other 33% believed that Biden won the debate. That's a fairly big difference between the 50-50 that we usually see. Now, I want to put this into perspective. If 67% believe that Trump won the debate, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to vote for him. That doesn't necessarily believe that they believe the things that he's saying, but the things that he is saying are in some way resonating or being found meaningful by those people. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll vote for him. It doesn't mean they agree with him, like him, anything. So I say that to say, is that something that any presidential candidate has ever said before? And I know I watched enough to know that Biden reacted with horror and disgust, and it probably was the best thing he could do, considering all the circumstances. But I think the heft of this campaign balances on that notion. If you believe that we are a failing nation, then what are you going to do about it? And are we failing because of Trump, or are we failing because of Biden? And at least for this debate, my humble opinion, and I haven't gone through the entire analysis, but the bits that I watched, Trump was not entirely, but mainly more convincing and more presidential. That's not to say that I believed everything that he said. It's not to say that I changed my views of him very much. I probably did a little, but and you're seeing from the stream why I don't run for president.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties?
President Biden, you would be 86.
All right. So I want to pause and talk about Biden's response. Maybe I can run in 2028. Well, one, I've got to get over the chronic fatigue before I even consider doing anything like that. But two, I've got to find somebody to help hide the skeletons in my closet. So, but I appreciate the vote of confidence, JPRPH1. So, looking at Biden's response, again, likely one of the best responses that he could give. I believe that 30-some% of people that voted that he won firmly believe that that was the adequate and best answer. But I'm analyzing this because I want to see and I want to discuss why Trump seems to have won so preponderantly. While Biden does give one of the best possible responses, true or not, to what Trump just said, I humbly suggest that Trump's response to Biden is better than any of the debate things. I think that the rules and limits that were put on that, some might say that, that they were put on for Biden's purpose, whatever, maybe not. But honestly, likely they were just put on so that it didn't devolve into the shambles that were the last, the debates between Trump and Clinton, and then the debates between Trump and Biden. I'm going to give CNN the benefit of the doubt on that. But it actually, I think, helped Trump. I think it helped him a lot. Because when all you can really do, I've been here. Now, and I'm going to exaggerate some because I don't want to accuse Biden of saying anything that, I mean, you might feel that he said something outrageous, but I'm not going to accuse him of that here. I'm going to be centrist. But I know what it is to have somebody yelling and screaming and calling you every name in the book. And I've learned that the best response is usually just silence. And so instead of Trump presenting himself as a bully and a fighter, I know that's what he's trying to present himself as. He sees himself, again, right or wrong, as Rocky Balboa, and he's the underdog, but he's going to win no matter what. I think that's the way he sees himself. Right or wrong. But I think the stoic, and frankly, sometimes even to me, he even looked humble, which I've never seen Trump look humble before in my life. I know that there's that 37%, and probably a lot of them are good friends of mine who will disagree with that. But when he's just nodding and frowning, it's not that he's admitting anything. He's just accepting, this is what my opponent is saying. This is what some people believe, but those who support me do not. And it's actually more powerful than a lot of his bombast and a lot of his, now I'm going to be Biden. It's better than a lot of his bombast and bluster, I in my humble opinion.
At the end of your second term, how do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized as being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing.
Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them.
And I'm going to pause it there, partly for the algorithm and partly because, again, his bombast is what does hurt him. I know he's trying to project strength and power, and he does, in my humble opinion, do a better job of doing that than Biden in this interview. Having said that, I doubt, maybe I should look it up, but I doubt that he aced it. You know, maybe, but I doubt that he aced these tests. The point, though, isn't whether or not someone took one or didn't take one. Again, we know that half of the population firmly believes he took these tests and firmly believe that he did very well on them. And the other half believes that that's ridiculous. But again, the amazing preponderance of people voting that Trump won, he projected that health, he projected that youth. Whether it's real or not, he did a better job of projecting that he had health and strength and vitality. Okay, let's go on.
Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 20,
And that actually was funny, but
35 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I had, how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Hey, let's
not
how
act
many
like
rounds-
children.
President Trump, we're going to
okay. I want to pause it right there because, okay, let me back it up because I want to be sure that I'm getting this right. And again, I only watched a little bit of the debate, but I did watch this portion. And there's something, unless I misheard it, there's something Trump does here. But I may have misheard it. So let's listen again.
I know you swing.
Hey, let's
not
how
act
many
like
rounds-
children.
President Trump.
Let's not act like children. That's, again, I think this is why people voted that he won. This is exactly what either one of them should have been saying for the last 8 years or however long it's been. Let's not act like children. Let's be statesmen. Let's not act like idiots who hate the other half of the country. Let's act like people who want to include as many people as we can within reason to this nation. Maybe you see it differently, but to me, this is literally the first time since I don't know when, maybe ever. This is the first time I look at Trump and say, that's actually presidential. And Enigma Severus, greetings. You're very welcome. I sent you an email. I hope that it came across the right way. I want you to know you're always welcome here, and I respect the heck out of you. And anyone who wants to see some great editing, this guy, Enigma Severus, he quote Trump, I shouldn't. It sounds like I'm making fun of you, but I'm actually making fun of Trump. But really, Enigma Severus does some amazing videos, some amazing editing. I need to watch more of them myself, but he sent me some videos where he does a review of Good Will Hunting, and it's amazing. I actually don't care for the film Good Will Hunting, but just the beauty of his analysis has made me think I may need to rewatch that and reevaluate it from a different perspective. So good on you. Thank you for supporting and coming to my show. I don't know how great it's going to be. I'm giving my analysis of the debate, for good or ill, and I'm almost through this part of the video, but I'm not trying to pick a side. My bias probably does come through, but I'm trying to keep it in check. I'm trying to analyze the debate, not so much from who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, who's going to win, who's going to lose, but why was it that in the CNN poll, which I think everyone can agree is not a pro-Trump organization, so it couldn't have been stacked for him, why did 67% of the people polled say that Trump won the debate, when you and I both know there's a polarized divide? Nearly every poll says that 50% are going to, roughly 40 to 50% are going to vote for Trump, roughly 40 to 50% are going to vote for Biden. Why did such an overwhelming majority of people decide that Trump had won this debate? And I'm making perhaps I know my liberal friends are going to hate me for this, but this literally was the first time I ever saw Trump and thought, that's presidential. My liberal friends are going to think that it's actually still petty and still despicable, and I get that. I respect that, actually. But to me, just making the statement, let's not act like children. Yeah, he's curbing Biden, but he's also, for a change, he's curbing himself. And Trump may not realize it, but that's what, actually, I think maybe he does, but that's what the American people want to see. That's what would have inspired confidence in him all through those 8 years. If he had humbled himself, not entirely. I'm not saying he has to wear horsehair shirts and lacerate his back. I'm just saying a lot of what turned people off on him, a lot of what turns me off on him, is that bombast, that hint of arrogance. And this debate was the first time that, in my humble opinion, he showed a degree, not a great degree, maybe not enough of a degree, but a degree of humility. And it was, to me, very refreshing.
We're going to
21
Let's
Right.
not act like children.
Okay, so that's the Wall Street Journal. I think I will go next. The Trump-Biden debate. Eyewitness News. I won't play their video. Oh, I've already played this. Never mind. Okay. I will get better, I promise. CNN, again, you can say whatever you want about CNN, whether you believe them, disbelieve them, or whatever. You can't accuse CNN of being a pro-Trump organization. So if they're saying anything positive about him, it's not necessarily true, but there's got to be a reason why they'll say it. And this isn't exactly a pro-Trump thing, but Biden's disastrous debate pitches his re-election bid into crisis. If Joe Biden loses November's election, history will record that it took just 10 minutes to destroy a presidency. Might be a little melodramatic, but we'll see if he backs that up. It was clear a political disaster was about to unfold as soon as the 81-year-old commander-in-chief stiffly shuffled on stage in Atlanta to stand 8 feet from ex-President Donald Trump at what may turn into the most fateful presidential debate in history. Objectively, Biden produced the weakest performance since John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon started the tradition of televised debates in 1960, then as on Thursday in a television studio with no audience. Minutes into the showdown hosted by CNN, a full-blown Democratic panic was underway at the idea of heading into the election with such a diminished figure at the top of the ticket. And in case you're wondering, I'm not reading any of that with joy or pleasure. I don't wish old age or decay on anybody, but I also don't want to deny what the evidence of my eyes. Biden's chief debate coach, Ron Klain, famously argues that while you can lose the debate at any time, you can only win it in the first 30 minutes. By that standard, the president's showing was devastating. The tone of the evening was set well before the half hour. It is too early to say how voters will respond and whether the president can rescue himself. And it's true. I've seen people come back from maybe not worse things, but some pretty bad things. But Biden barely beat Trump in key battleground states in the middle of a pandemic in 2020. His approval rating was below 40% before the debate, when he was at best neck and neck with his rival in the polls. It would only take a few thousand voters to desert him to put Trump back in the White House. There's been no public sign that Biden is unable to fulfill the duties of the presidency, which include tough decisions on national security. I would debate that, but I will let that go because, again, CNN has its bias. Not saying that they're lying at all. Don't think that. But I humbly suggest that other people at least have seen some things that are questionable and make us wonder. On Thursday's evidence, his ability to communicate with the country and even to sell his own vision for a second term is severely compromised. If the debate was the president's best chance to turn around a tight race with Trump, which has him in deep peril of losing re-election, it was a failure. Biden ended the night with the Democratic Party in crisis, with serious conversations taking place behind the scenes among senior figures over whether his candidacy is now sustainable 2 months before the Democratic National Convention. One of the issues I have with the Democratic Party is I believe that in this election, I think the nomination was just railroaded. I think that they are, right or wrong, for good or ill, terrified that Trump will become president again. And I don't want to poo-poo those fears or say that none of them are justified. I don't know. I'm not wise enough to know that. But I would have had a lot more respect for the Democratic Party if they had had a more open debate, if they had even just had something that looked like Kennedy or somebody else had a shot. And to me, it seemed like a lot of these primaries, they were scheduled in times when states couldn't even have them, so they had impromptu debate. See, now I'm having the Biden moment. I'm not running for president, though. But they had the, I can't think of the word, but they had the votes within the states before the states could have the votes. And so that state doesn't even get to send the delegates to them. And that's, to me, just wrong. There should have been debate. There should have been actual elections. And if you're going to take away the fear of the other side that the election was stolen, the worst thing you can do is to ramrod things. You have to do it with openness and transparency. And that's where that's where the strength comes, because whether the election was stolen or not, it can appear that way if you look at it a certain way. And the only way to fight that is not with autocracy, it's with openness and transparency. And I don't think we had that in this election. And to be fair, I'm sure that there was a lot of shenanigans going on the other side. Enigma Severus, the bigger problem the Democratic Party has is the fact that they don't have another candidate. And I agree. I cannot think of a Democrat, and again, I have my bias, and it is what it is. So take these words with a grain of salt. But when I try to think of the only one that I would have voted for is running independent. And he's probably the one that I will vote for unless Trump does something amazing. And to say that this debate, not that it was amazing, But yeah, it does chip away at that armor of my decision. It makes me think, well, maybe I'm wrong. But at this point in time, I would vote for Kennedy. But other than that, I can't think of, Tulsi Gabbard, but she's persona non grata in the Democratic Party. Again, all the people that I would have voted for on that side has left that party. And now there's might be some other exceptions. But anyway, I'm digressing too much. The president aimed for an immediate rebound at a post-debate rally in North Carolina Friday, appearing rested, defiant, and animated. And I haven't watched that, and I probably won't. Want to get through this stream before Pacelli. So I probably won't watch it between now and then. I know I'm not a young man to state the obvious, Biden told the crowd that chanted 4 more years, 4 more years. The president added, I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. Biden went on, raising his voice. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong, and I know how to do this job. I am not going to make any commentary on that. Enigma Severus. Newsom does not look good. No, I agree. With how California is at this moment, Kamala has ostracized herself from her own party. I agree. I hope that that's true, actually, because forgive me if anyone in here is a Kamala Harris fan, but I'm not. Gabbard is switched. Kennedy does not technically have his name. Yeah, everywhere. That's true. Kennedy's name is nowhere near as powerful as it once was, because otherwise they couldn't have kept him off of this. He should have been a serious contender, but the Kennedy name alone is not enough to do it. That's right. Thank you, Enigma Severus. So I know what millions of Americans know: when you get knocked down, you get back up again, and nothing's going to keep you down. So again, I'll just keep reading. Biden's much improved performance in a scripted stump speech before a friendly audience, however, only further exposes his failures on Thursday night, when he had his best chance to counter Trump before tens of millions of television viewers, and I might add, with no audience at all. I used to be able to do that. Maybe I'll get back to being able to do that. But Trump's task on Thursday was to avoid playing into Biden's claims that he's unhinged and is therefore unfit to return to the Oval Office. He largely did so as he got out of the way while the president was damaging his own campaign. The presumptive Republican nominee's unaccustomed restraint, however, did wear thin later in the debate. But in one devastating moment, after yet another Biden waffle, he said, I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. The ex-president didn't avoid his own disqualifying issues. He was uncouth and divisive. And this is their opinion, and he does, whether he means to or not, whether it's fair or not, it does seem like he's a divisive, something about him is divisive, but that's a discussion for another time. He spouted outrageous falsehoods about his own presidency, again, according to CNN, especially when asked about climate change. And I didn't hear what he said about climate change, so I can't really comment on that. He blatantly lied about his role in the mob attack by his supporters on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th of 2021. The twice impeached convicted felon repeatedly declined to say that he would accept the result of the 2024 election if he lost, and made sweeping, vague, and often illogical claims that U.S. enemies overseas will bend to his will just because of his personality. The former president also struggled to parry Biden's arguments that he'd slash taxes for rich Americans and leave workers struggling. He was wobbly in policy, just as he was in the White House. Again, this person's analysis. By the time the aged rivals slipped into a bitter debate about who is the best golfer, it was not hard to understand why voters have long told pollsters that they want no part of the choice they've been offered this year. So that is CNN. What do I want to? I don't want to share this whole video, but I wanted to. I have this unfortunate love of Russell Brand, especially since he's accepted Christianity. I don't want to hammer anyone with faith or anything, but at the same time, I love it that he's come to accept Christ. And so there it is. He's one of my guilty pleasures. So let's see some of his analysis as well.
There is no two ways about it. That was not a good debate for Joe Biden.
And that was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all. And he looked, I'll give you the analysis. You kind of have the old man versus the con man.
Yeah, okay, let's cling on to those ideas for a while if we can, but it's sort of extraordinary actually that there's this much analysis required and applied to something that's been evident for so long. Actually, I'll be honest with you, when I was watching it live and clinging onto a cigar and clinging onto Wi-Fi in the dead of night while Rumble was clearly experiencing some sort of external threat, I almost thought, well, what did you expect from Joe Biden? We watch Joe Biden all the time. There's a point where, just as a comedian, I don't want to talk about it anymore because it seems cruel, unnecessary, and downright repetitive. And the sight of pundits and experts, well, no, that wasn't a good debate. Well, what do you expect? You essentially elected, or at least through some kind of heritage mentality, pushed to the forefront a politician who was never suitable for the job in the first place. In the same way, this still...
Okay. Now, again, I love Russell Brand. I know a lot of my friends don't like him, and I get it. He had his shady side. He did some not great things. And I don't want to say that he should not be held accountable for anything he did in his life. As Enigma Severus has said in one of his videos, choices have consequences. Having said that, this is a classical liberal here. This is someone that used to be the face. I mean, you can't hardly get more liberal than the long hair and the beard and the complete disrespect and disregard that he used to show to the establishment. And ironically, that's what he's still doing. But he's showing disrespect anymore to the liberal establishment. And because he, like Tulsi, like RFK, because he's left them, he is now persona non grata. And lots of accusations are coming out, which, whether they're true or not, I suspect would never have been made if he had just simply kept accepting the party line and did what he was told and just made the jokes about, Trump or the Republicans or whoever we don't like. I think he would have been fine, whatever he did or didn't do. But no, he made the bad, horrible mistake. And I get it, because I also have done the same thing in the past, and I may get back to doing that, but I've been very critical of the Republican Party. I've been very critical of conservatives that I felt didn't measure up. Now, granted, you can put a microscope on my life and I won't measure up either. But then I'm not running for office. But I am trying to run a YouTube channel. So anyway, let's skip ahead just a bit. I want to see what this...
The Jukes, a surprise.
He goes through 6 days of preparation at Camp David.
More than that.
And they know the rules.
It was more than a week.
Okay, so more than a week. They know the rules. He practices with the mics. He knows every one of these questions is coming. And yet he couldn't fill the time. Now, I just want to, let's see what the White House is saying. Sources close to the White House are saying he had a cold, wasn't feeling well. I mean, as you would expect, that came out early on in the debate. But what accounts for someone with so much experience doing so much preparation and this being the outcome?
Honestly, I think the question answers itself. He wasn't capable of doing any better than he did.
Right. Okay, well, that's a concern. Now, many people will make much of Donald Trump's familiar ability to, let's say, narrativize on the spot, but CNN have been forced to fact check Biden, and the fact is that they've checked out.
To some of them, he said he's the only president in a while who didn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world. Troops have, of course, died on his watch. He said he's put in a $15 per shot cap on insulin and Medicare. It's a $35 a month cap. He said it's a $200 cap on overall drug spending in Medicare. It's $2,000.
Can't even say that Donald Trump is a liar anymore. They can't even say that that's the distinction. All that is left now is propaganda and faith. You might as well fall entirely into a faith-based mentality. You might as well reject this system. Absolutely. The idea now that you can say, look, the grown-ups are back in charge, or the idea that you can say, listen, we just need a safe pair of hands. The idea that you can say, in order to stop Putin, we've got to Joe Biden. All you can do now is aghast. Sit back and marvel at the revelation that your systems are falling and failing. This is...
And that goes back to what Trump said during the debate. And again, to me, at least the parts that I watched, that's the most salient crux of the debate, is where he says, we are a failing nation. And if that is true, and now I'm back on my analysis, what do we do about it? Do we vote for someone who is... I don't want to be cruel about this, but do we vote for someone who doesn't seem to be excessively capable of governing anymore? And why were we forced into this circumstance? I mean, both parties, I believe, have a lot to answer for in all of this. I'm not going to make you suffer through more Russell Brand, but I thought that was salient to my take on what I watched. Oh, I still have it up. Okay. This, I think, is where Trump scored his biggest blow, at least in the portions that I watched.
I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two.
Which I believe is true. Having said that, I think Biden's overtopped him. So just putting that out there.
That $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%.
Enigma Severus. Hopefully we don't get into a debate here because I'm not quite up to it right now. But in fairness, I would say that the two parties have really been one party for a long, long time. And if you want to know why people vote for Trump, if you want to, whether that's good or bad or whatever, the reason he has support is because so many people are tired of corruption, and so many people are tired of the party saying all these things, but then they do the exact same thing when they get behind the closed doors. Donald Trump, I believe a lot of the strength of his movement has been that idea of draining the swamp. Now, I could be wrong, but I do think he should have done a better job at that. But I don't want to debate it, not because you may have a very good point as far as he may have done better than I think. But that's what I hold the parties should be accountable for. I think that they've allowed the Democratic/Republic to devolve into this state that's just a government by conglomerations, for conglomerations, and of conglomerations, including the big businesses, including the FBI, CIA, all of those organizations that we are seeing being weaponized, if not against Trump, against normal citizens. And I would suggest that if we do our homework, both parties have been doing this. Now, it can be argued, and another time I'll be willing to listen to that, but it can be argued one party has done better than another, et cetera, et cetera. But I found both parties guilty of doing very similar things. Let's see what Enigma says. The dominant Christian circles here in the USA in the 80s held a position that they would no longer participate in voting because it was compromising. Okay, and he has a point on this, and it's probably a good point. In the 80s, well, they were hold a special time for me, but I'll continue talking, but please feel free to make your point. If it becomes debatable, I'll just accept that we're disagreeing. Not to be unfair to you, but because my Biden-esque soul is not quite up to a debate. Again, there it is. Let's see the rest of his response.
Either one of those numbers. They've raised $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Oh, they didn't play it. I thought they would. But I believe the next point that Trump made was
President Biden and former President Donald.
Yeah, you beat Medicare, you beat it to death. And I know that's one of the things that Russell Brand has covered, is how Biden has made these speeches about we beat Big Pharma, but yet he's basically in bed with Big Pharma. So, the Big Pharma made some of the biggest profits that they've ever made during the disease that cannot be named. So Trump is absolutely right there. And I think, again, that's why he has that 67% voting rate that he won. Enigma Severus says, ultimately, we as a human race will always be, sadly, you're not wrong, will always be choosing the lesser of two evils. Ultimately, that is what we were doing. I remember a beautiful moment in Master and Commander where Russell Crowe's character is half drunk, and he's telling his lieutenants, which of these weevils is the best? He says it's the smaller one because you always choose the lesser of two weevils. His delivery, though, was better than mine. So I don't really want to fact check either of them very much right now. I'm going to play a little bit of RFK's analysis of this, and then I'm going to end it with the what I think is one of the most salient opinions that I've heard anyway on this thing. Enigma Severus, we are simply choosing which human is the less evil in appearance for our survival. We don't have Christ in this world. We will always have problematic systems, and sometimes we live long enough to become the villain. Yeah, sadly, I know. And I appreciate that. I love your comments. Thank you. RFK Jr., what has he got to say?
70% of the American public say they don't want this contest because neither of them are running on the things that are absolutely critical to Americans right now.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was clearly left out of the CNN debate, but was involved in his own self-titled real debate tonight on X. Let's bring in the independent candidate for president, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Mr. Kennedy, thank you for coming on the show. We very much appreciate it. We're going to get to the debate that you held tonight. In fact, our old buddy John Stossel was the moderator of that debate.
I love John Stossel. Just going to put that out there.
On X, and there was a reportedly a significant audience. What did you think about the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump tonight as you were watching?
I mean, I thought it was troubling, Trey, and thanks for having me back on your show. We have 341 million Americans in this country. We have, extraordinary people, and to think that this is what the Democratic and Republican Party are offering us, and the vitriol, the anger, the finger pointing, the dishonesty on both sides. We want to be the moral authority around the world. We want to produce the greatest leadership. We want to show that we're an exemplary nation, that we're the example, the template for democracy, and tell all the rest of the world why democracy is so great, because the cream rises. And it's hard to look at that debate and make that case. And
I'm just going to ask the people in chat, do you agree with that? That's a little humiliating. Self-titled debate. Not wrong. Oh my gosh, he is suffering from bowel guilt. And even though I'm probably going to vote for the guy, I'm absolutely able to laugh at him. So, feel free to, say what you need to say. Did he do a higher? I wish I could copy his voice. I can now hear in my head, RFK, hi, Ren. It's been a little while. Did you miss me? Thought you buried me, didn't you? Risky, because I always come back. Or what would be even better, somebody who's good with AI needs to do this. There needs to be like RFK, I don't know, or maybe Trump and Biden as the two different sides, but then who would you pick? Oh, that's brilliant, though. I wish I had better skills at that kind of stuff. It would be so fun. Enigma Severus, I know you've got mad skills, or if you don't, maybe you know someone who does. I think that needs to happen. Higher end with the candidates singing. Enigma Severus, I believe RFK will hurt Biden more than Trump. Yeah. Although I voted for Trump the first time, and I've never lived it down amongst my liberal friends. And the second time I can't even remember who it was. I voted for the Libertarian. And this next time around, it's either going to be, frankly, it'll either be RFK or it will be Trump, depending on what Trump does. If I continue to see evidence that he's grown and that he's learned some of his lessons, I'm open to changing to him. But right now, as things stand, I'm probably going to vote for RFK, with no disrespect for anyone who votes for either one of the other candidates.
The other problem with it is they weren't talking about anything that any of the issues that are, I think, that I'm seeing Americans concerned with. A $34 trillion debt that is existential. Within 5 years, 50 cents out of every dollar we collect in taxes is going to go to that debt. Unraveling the corrupt merger of state and corporate power. The chronic disease epidemic, which now affects 60% of our children.
Mm-hmm. And I'm one of those people. I'm just saying.
This toxic polarization that is tearing our country apart. All of these things, nobody asked about how are we going to end those things? How are we going to get our kids into houses? We have a whole generation of kids.
Sure.
Is never going to be able to afford a house. And that is, the American.
I'm going to read the comment and I also have another comment to make. I think Trump has become a little more humble in his behavior. I agree. And I don't know if you'd gotten into the chat yet, but that was one of the points that I made was this may have been, and maybe I'm just not paying enough attention, but this was one of the first times that I have seen Trump and seen humility. Now, I know my liberal friends are going to just mock at that, and I get it, but because there's still plenty of bombast in him. But having said that, he when he was called a felon, he didn't blow up, he didn't retaliate, he just sat and listened. Enigma Severus, he actually asked poverty communities, what can we make better from his previous campaign? And no, not wrong. Again, I'm sure my liberal friends will have some fault to find with that, but I, at this point, don't. I think that's a sign of growth too. All right.
Middle class is the greatest economic engine ever created. But it relied on everybody being in homes and being able to borrow money to start businesses. And that, when we take that away, we go from being citizens to being subjects.
I'm wondering, Mr. Kennedy, if you...
And yeah, I do feel that we have kind of gotten there. We've gone from being citizens to being subjects.
Believe, if you watch that debate, if you believe what you saw tonight improves your chances, if you believe that Joe Biden's demeanor tonight improves your chances in this election?
Trey, honestly, I try to not make those predictions. Everything sounds like spin, and I'm fighting as hard as I can to make sure that that I win the election. But I don't know what I don't know what the impact of that debate is going to have. I think it must be distressing to people within the Democratic Party that I don't see how, our polling is showing President Biden simply cannot win, that he just, no matter whether I'm in the race, he loses. If I leave the race, he loses even worse. He loses 2 extra states.
And that's wild. I don't know if I agree with that statement, but I mean, if the poll shows that, the poll shows that, but that's a wild thought that if RFK isn't there, possibly Biden loses by more. I wonder about that, but I do think that, I mean, it's not that I was ever going to vote for Biden anyway, ever, but that's an interesting thought.
In Virginia, he can't win, but tonight, I think even more Americans must be looking at that and saying, he can't be our president. Oh, I think it must be troubling to people in the party who made the decision not to have primaries and just to select a candidate who is very, very frail, and we're going to run him no matter what. And, they made that decision. It kept not only me out, they should have had Gavin Newsom in, and they should have Governor Whitmer, and there's some great candidates out there. Dean.
Primaries. That's the word I was searching for. Sorry.
Phillips and Marianne Williamson were running, but they shut down the primaries so nobody could run. And they made a choice. And it was like the old Soviet party where they tell you, this is the only choice. It's an election, but you only got one choice.
Others have echoed that point. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate it, as always.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
All right. And so this will be the last thing that I show, and then it'll be a stream, unless y'all just have something you want to talk about. But I saw Trump's humility come out more in the debate. I haven't seen any rally stuff. Yeah, I haven't watched much rally stuff. There it is. But so this next thing to me is the most telling of all of the things that I have seen anyway. Anderson Cooper, he's one of the spokespersons for CNN. Some, not all, but some of the liberals that are my friends just absolutely love and adore him, and I don't want to poo-poo that. When I was dating a liberal, I actually watched more CNN, and I was surprised that it was not as biased as I had thought. And having said that, it still had a bias, and there's still things that they've reported that I take some issues with. That's neither here nor there right now. Enigma Severus, let's appreciate the fact we as the people at least have some sort of influence. I'm not going to go full conspiracy and say we never influence the votes, but we do have more power than others. I know people who would debate you, but I would not. I think that at least I want to believe that there's still a shot for the common voter. There's still a chance for the normal man. Enigma Severus also, Kamala snapped it. Yes. Usually CNN has no pushback. Yeah. And so you've already seen it, but I will play it anyway because that's just how I roll. I may not play the whole thing. But in fact, let's just go ahead and start it.
The 2024 presidential campaign is now history. The fallout from it is just getting started. Joining us now is Vice President Kamala Harris. Madam Vice President, thanks for being with us. CNN's John King has described a panic inside the Democratic Party right now because of President Biden's performance in tonight's debate. He's been hearing from Democratic lawmakers and others around the country. Some within your own party are wondering if President Biden should even step aside. What do you say to that?
Listen, first of all, what we saw tonight is the president making a very clear contrast with Donald Trump on all of the issues that matter to the American people. Yes, there was a slow start, but it was a strong finish. And what became very clear through the course of the night is that Joe Biden is fighting on behalf of the American people, on substance, on policy, on performance. Joe Biden is extraordinarily strong.
But I'm sorry, on substance and policy and performance tonight, I mean, the president's performance tonight clearly was disappointing for his supporters. CNN is reporting Democratic lawmakers watching the debate were worried about the president's performance. One said it was a disaster. Another called it a train wreck. Those are Democrats especially worried that Biden did not punch back on Trump's lies.
Listen, people can debate on style points, but ultimately this election and who is the president of the United States has to be about substance. And
I won't play the rest of it because I think most of you have seen it and most of you know where it goes. But yeah, essentially you have Anderson Cooper who, you know, he's one of the great quote unquote voices of the liberal side. And I actually have, you know, I know some of my conservative friends will take issue with me on this, but I've seen him do a lot better reporting than a lot of the people that are just out there just throwing out opinions, not stating any facts whatsoever. Sometimes his facts may be wrong, I might humbly suggest, but yeah. So I think I probably run as long as I need to, said about as much as I need to. The big take on this, again, this is just a tired blogger analysis. You can agree, disagree, but I think that the reasons why 67% said that Trump won the debate are, number one, Biden showed himself as old and weak, whether he really is or not. He definitely gave that appearance. Number two, I believe for the first time, maybe ever, I saw Trump having a modicum of humility and humility and just an ability to rein himself in. And I think Americans seeing that was one of the best things that Trump could do for his campaign right now. And the third thing, when he said, let's not act like children, I could be wrong. I'm sure that my liberal friends think I'm wrong on this, but I really felt like he was talking to himself as well as Biden. And in that moment, he showed himself to be the more presidential of the two. Now, can he keep it going? Is it legit? Is it just a front? I'm sure that that's what other people will think and say. I don't know, but again, this debate did chip away at my armor, and I'm not saying that I'm convinced yet, but if he continues like this, I could see being convinced that he has grown up, he has learned his lessons, possibly he is able to lead now. Again, I know many very smart people and very good people will disagree with me. So I thank you very much. Enigma Severus, from what I've observed, Trump has never had an issue acting like an ass. Yeah, Enigma, I think you're not wrong. And I don't mean to beat up either candidate right now, but yeah, it's definitely easy to find examples of him making an ass of himself. So I will play the spiffy music. And thank everyone in the chat. Thank you very much. JPRPH1, you're so supportive. Thank you very much. Please keep playing that music. Enigma Severus, thank you very much. I was always glad to see you. You know, we don't always agree, but I think we often agree on what I hope are the most important things. And while you might challenge me once in a while, you're definitely not as challenging as some other people I've had to deal with. And you're definitely much more kind and charitable and loving in a Christian way. So thank you very much. And Patrick, likely you didn't stay because you didn't make any more comments. I'm sorry if I wasn't great for you, but thank you for coming in, and thank you for leaving a comment. I never did figure out what you meant by MSM has been lying about Biden, but having said that, I really wouldn't doubt that there's truth to it. I am fairly certain that every major media outlet has been feeding us some lies in these last several years, and lies about both sides, I think, in my humble opinion. So I'm afraid I still don't have the greatest outro, but what I've got is no, you are not going mad. You're going sane in a mad world. Thank you very much. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you two at any rate. I hope to see later at Last Call with Troy Pacelli. Oh, and Coda's Fact Search. I'm almost done, but and I know you probably wouldn't even like this one, and that's okay. Coda's Fact Search, so good to see you. This is also a person very supportive, very intelligent. You know, even when I don't disagree or don't agree with him, which is not all that often, he's always got a lot of facts. So I always kind of have to feel embarrassed for disagreeing with him when I do. Yes, hugs back. You are the bomb. And hopefully this was good enough for you to want to rewatch. But if it wasn't, well, the flaw's on me. And I appreciate all of you for coming. Thank you for showing up. And I hope to see most of you later at Last Call with Pacelli. And I am neither Trump nor Biden. And I am thankful to whatever God is out there that is so. Take care and have a great evening.